We're going to do it up a little different today. I'm going to do a Q&A based on some of the responses that came after my last video at the end of the last 70s bench press powerlifter program video that I put up, which got a pretty good response. Thank you for that. I told everybody to leave whatever questions they had for me in the comments and I would get back to them, and there were just some good ones. So I wanted to compile them into a Q&A, go over it. This is a grab bag. So if you're looking for the fancy animations or the dick jokes that just roll off by the second, this is going to be a little more casual. So maybe, put it on a road trip or, help you fall asleep at night. Turn off the ASMR. Get some Bromley Q&A in your ear. All right. Up your training game, up your gains. Let's get into it. But first, if you like free shit, I think you like free shit. Barbell Apparel is giving away free hoodies. $99 purchases get you a free hoodie, but it also stacks. These are not cheap hoodies, guys. These are nice. They got the Barbell Apparel monogram right here. The stitching's nice on it. They come in a bunch of different colors and it stacks. Get your Christmas shopping out of the way. Go get yourself some of the incredible stretchy jeans for the gluteally advantage so you can bend over without ripping the seams or getting plumber's crack. Get a Bromley graphic tee. Before you know it, you'll have a sweater for grandma, for your Uncle Joey, for the nieces and nephews. Offer's not gonna be around long, so go right now, get it while it lasts. So let's sift through these comments. Let's see what we got. I did the drawing of Don Reinhardt and it came out looking a lot like Stavy Baby. If any of you guys watch Tires or you're on the podcast scene, Stavros Halakis, he's hilarious, but he has the exact same kind of like portly proportions, and it looked exactly like him. Like somebody took him and put him in a powerlifting singlet. Thomas Miles said Stavros has been doing a fitness thing. I know he's been doing some series where he's been like trying to lose weight or get in shape, which is funny because I don't think he's made an ounce of progress. You have to rip-a-toe pill him and encourage weight gain and low bar squatting instead of whatever gay weight loss shit he's trying. Please. And I thought about that and I'm like, if he was going to go a route, I mean, he could do like the Rebel Wilson or whatever and just like go from being really fat to skinny, and it looks weird. And they're never as funny. I don't know what it is about the way fat people are funny. Like nobody would have watched John Candy or John Belushi at the end of a weight loss arc. Like Drew Carey lost a bunch of weight. What's he doing? Nobody cares. Now, if he doubled down on it and he just went the full like power pig D-ball route, if he emulated the Don Reinhardt spirit that he already has in his corner. And I responded, I'd love to see like a season 6 of Tires after 4 years of him doing like a full-blown squats and D-ball arc. I think that'd be absolutely hilarious. Get the mood swings, the aggression, add that onto his character. That'd be something to see. Soon to be 91. I ran 70s powerlifter and hit the bench goal I've been chasing for years. It works. Fantastic to hear. And I promoted, of course I'm biased. It's a good generalized program. I expect it to be the thing that kind of solves a lot of problems for a lot of people. And I've gone over that extensively, why that is, that I believe. People giving responses on my new illustration style. I've been doubling down on that. I really like to draw, and it's something I always feel guilty doing because I was always behind on content. How could I justify drawing? Being able to marry things that I like to do and have it come together, it's a blessing. The videos seem to be doing pretty well. Retention's a little bit better. I'm getting a lot of comments. Occasionally somebody is like, this is dumb, not my bag. Like, I completely understand that, but there isn't a video I could put out that is going to scratch everybody's itch. I'm not gonna try. The information's the same. The only thing I have control over is how I package it, and without having to do like Mr. Beast psyop, psychological warfare to get people to watch longer, this checks a lot of boxes. So I think I'm gonna stick with this for a while. Alexander Nasty Package Bromley. I would love to get Barbell Apparel to put Nasty Package on a t-shirt as part of the Bromley merch. I'm not entirely sure that's gonna fly. How do I get a big belly like Blaha? I am currently in my chubby Blaha arc. Not only am I sizing down, I'm reproportioning in the wrong way. So stay tuned. Another 3 months, I think I'll be able to give you guys a secret for how you make a mid physique even midder. All right, now we got some substance. Mr. Dragon79, what's a perfect split program for a firefighter with a 24/48 schedule? I've been running the AI block program. Now, I worked around a lot of people that had these type of wonky splits, like a lot of people in the medical field, first responders, they have crazy hours. So the 24/48, that's 24 hours straight. You go in like what, 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. or whatever it might be. And then you have 48 hours straight off. Now it sounds cool. You got 2 days straight off, but it screws with your sleep schedule so much. It's kind of hard to make the most of those 2 days. I had an EMT, Philip Morris, I've covered him before, and a nurse. Chris Flores is a powerlifter. And I think he was a nurse. I know he worked in a hospital, but they both worked the craziest hours. They both had other like outside family responsibilities, and they'd be hard up on sleep. And one of the things that stood out is both of them loved what they did. Philip was one of the most diligent people I've ever seen. He would just come in, hoodie on, radio blasting in his ears, and he would look like a zombie. He'd come in off like 2 days of no sleep, and he would do his crazy bench shit where he would bench 500 for reps. He was one of the strongest people I've ever known in person. And if he got in a little earlier where somebody could have funneled it to a competitive avenue, he could have been an absolute monster. When I first met him, I'm like, oh, how much you bench? He's like 675. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, shut up. No, you don't. And then he ended up joining at my gym later after I started up. And I'm like, oh, you absolutely do. He paused like a 625, just like an elevator at my bench multiple times. Anyways, to be able to do what he did, I mean, there's no amount of like gear that's just going to take you there. There's no amount of just one thing that's going to take you there. He had a belief that he needed to do what he had to do and that he would adapt, and he loved to do it, so he would have done it anyways. So taking off the brakes, the hesitation, and just doing the thing you need to do, you will adapt. Now, something might reveal itself down the road as a problem. Solve that when it becomes a problem. But there's certain things that people make an issue of before it's an actual issue, and it keeps them from doing the things they need to do. The fixation on fatigue and so on, it's one of those things. Chris Flores is exactly the same. He'd come in off working just a crazy shift, and he would be like 3 hours in the gym working because he loved to do it. So that is fundamentally the difference. Now, if you do have a hard time with tolerance, then that's a completely different thing, and you have to address those problems as they pop up. And everybody's tolerance is a bit different. I can guess at the big things that you're likely to deal with, but you're not going to know until you do it. When I responded to this gentleman, I said it depends entirely on your fatigue levels and when you're able to train. If you are dragging ass or your time is limited, so if it's a perpetual problem, then don't bank on being able to get 5 good workouts throughout the week. Don't bank on being able to be in there for an hour and a half, 2 hours and going ham. Fatigue and tiredness is real and you got other shit to do. Okay, so start with that. 3 days a week is plenty. It's plenty for most people, and they don't need to be barn burning long workouts to be useful. So block, I probably wouldn't, just because of the structure. There's so many back down sets. 70s powerlifter is also high volume. I would start with something that's more minimalistic, fewer sets, that relies more on like one AMRAP set or something. And there's elasticity in AMRAP sets too. You don't have to come in 10 out of 10, like if you're trying to hit a top triple at like 92% or whatever. So there's more give. You can still get a good stimulus, and there's fewer total exercises in that split. And the AI base strength app actually has a 3-day split built in that you can select, so it works out perfectly. But you're talking about what, 3 days a week for an hour? If you can't do that, then you got to look at other things like time management, sleep, nutrition, whatever, because just about everybody should be able to do that. Even if you're tired, you should be able to meet that basic requirement. Push through the fatigue, wait for the rest of your life to suffer, wait for the negative return to come, to tell you that your tolerances are low before you say, oh, I just can't do this, bro, because your body lies. Aluminum 5250, slightly off topic, but I hurt my shoulder bench 3 months ago and just keep re-injuring. And now 315, my goal for the end of the year had to be scrapped. When you ripped your bicep, you mentioned you took BPC 157. Did you take it with TB 500? As I don't have a ladder, but I don't want to take only the BPC if, from what I read, the synergistic effects are what give it the immense healing capability. I'm not an encyclopedia on this shit. I've heard different things. I've heard that people stack them together. Both of my bad injuries that I used it for, where it noticeably worked faster than it should have, I used it by itself and it was just fine. But you have to get to the problem of your issues if you keep re-injuring your shoulder, because just loading up on peptides, that's duct tape. You can only put on so much duct tape before you made the thing actually more unstable. For those of you who don't know, BPC, I want to say body protecting compound. I want to say it's in your gut, and it helps like your stomach regenerate because your stomach's bathed in acid to digest your food. So it's important, but if you inject it as a peptide, it by some mechanism goes to injury sites, creates more blood vessels, and especially in tendons. That's big. There's no blood flow in tendons. Helps it recover just so stupidly fast. I don't know, in 50 years, you're gonna be like, oh, BPC contributed to the infertility rate or some such shit. I don't know what's gonna come down the pipeline, but for now, I'm not kidding. When I ruptured my bicep, the tendon grew back in like a couple weeks, like noticeably thicker. Tendons take forever to heal because there's no blood flow. So it's great, and there's a reason a lot of guys use it now. But get to the bottom of the injuries. When I had shoulder issues, mandatory rows, rotations, and flies before I would even touch the bench press. Getting blood in there, that helps it feel better, but also it helps strengthen and secure the joint, helps make make it more secure. So if the ball is in the socket more firmly, I have a labrum tear right now. So that's my problem, is that the shoulder's just rolling around in there. So that stuff goes a long way, not just to make you feel better for the set, but for actually adding strength and size to those areas to make a more stable system. And it's what a lot of people with chronic issues tend to ignore. In addition to that, there's people that just aren't tolerant to certain lifts. Like, there just are. It's not common. You shouldn't assume that's who you are. But if you just repeatedly have problems, no matter how you attack this particular movement, it might be time to look at using benching sparingly and finding friendlier secondary and tertiary movements as your bread and butter. So you only bench just the minimum to get the stress, a couple of sets out of the week, where most of it is things that you can tolerate, whether it's dumbbells, hammer strength, doesn't matter, because size and strength is size and strength, and taking that and funneling it towards something as low tech as a bench is pretty easy. Longtime commenter, Leinenkugel von Doofenfacher. The only thing that should be of concern when it comes to bench is how to use it to help with the overhead press. If you're doing it for anything else, then you're one of the wrong people. Where's the lie? Can't find fault with that. Here's a debate on religion I should not have gotten into. Abyss Walker, 9765. Would it make sense to treat horizontal dumbbell bench press and weighted dips as primary developers for a bigger bench? Split the program into 2 phases, where base building phase would be something like dumbbell bench on Monday, dips on Thursday, heavy bench on Friday. The main logic is to gain off the chest strength through dumbbell press, cover mid-range through dips, and do specific heavy bench work on Friday to get neural adaptations. And for peak phase, drop all developmental movements for more bench sessions, like 3 minimum, to express strength better. So I like where his head's at here. He's thinking logically. He has these non-specific movements in a base phase, and then he's talking about going into a peak phase where it's more about specialized strength towards that particular lift. That's where things get more narrow, more specific. Reps get lower, weights get closer to the weights you're going to test your strength in, and you get a lot more practice in that range. So the frequency is more benching to really refine that skill. And it is a skill, even though benching is low tech. More practice still gives more dividends. Now, where I had an issue with this, and this was my response. It's a good question. I'd say no, but yes. He's using the dumbbells and the dips as ways to kind of address particular weaknesses. Now, I'm not saying that they don't do that, but I don't like having to go so many steps to try to get some specific benefit from a general exercise. I think you will get the wrong answer more often than not. Mechanically, dumbbells and dips are just so different. I don't consider them primary or like main variations, and I program those for a specific reason because I want them to carry over in a predictable way. Now, a good way to think about if something falls in that category or not. Think of it like an elite bench presser, somebody who's not just big and very strong, but they're very refined in their skill, like a Scott Mendelson in his prime, very specific bench technique. If he started implementing a particular exercise and got better at that exercise, how certain are you that he got better at benching as well from doing that? Now, if you take something like dumbbells or dips, the movement pattern is very different. Dumbbells are more unstable. Dips, I mean, you're pressing in a completely different direction, even though the muscles are used the same. It's possible, maybe, but maybe not. Now, if you take something that is very mechanically similar to a bench press, like a pin press, a close grip, subtle incline variations, maybe like wider grip, pauses, and so on, almost certainly yes. So that's a really important difference when you are talking about targeting weak points. And I think having that category is important to make it easier to say, okay, this is a good general exercise. I'm going to get better at this when I'm trying to like generally get bigger and stronger, or as an afterthought at the end of the workout. Now, as far as splitting it in those 3 days per week, when you're doing bench 3 days a week, bench Monday, bench Wednesday, bench Friday, or even a mechanically similar alternative to that, that is so that you can stack up more kind of moderate to high effort bench work while being fresh. It's finding ways to sneak in more bench specific volume in the week. This is not entirely the same thing. That doesn't mean it's useless. It's a DUP approach. There's like, is it raining? You can do like a heavy, light, medium is a good example, or even something where the weight varies. There's a lot of different DUP approaches where you can switch out exercise. And if you're in a base phase, there's no reason you can't use ones that are more non-specific. If you progress them all in line, you're still going to grow. It's just not quite in the same category as that really specific focus on drilling the bench high frequency. We're looking at different things, and that matters a lot more when you are more versus less adapted. For someone in his place, I wouldn't think twice about it. I wouldn't say that this is bad or you're better off doing something else entirely. You got these exercises spread throughout the week, hammer the hell out of them. If you're charting weight gain in each of those exercises, especially as you're simultaneously doing bench, yeah, you're going to see your bench tick up almost undoubtedly. If anything, I would just say, assuming you're more closer to early intermediate or novice, or you haven't been lifting as long, or you're not quite as strong, you probably have room to do a lot more work in any one of those workouts. Doesn't mean you have to, but you probably can, because the variety is also not going to beat you down. You're not hitting the same structures the exact same way, and you can handle a bit more volume. Now, I beat the drum on this because this is important for people when you get more advanced, when you get stronger. This type of shit's going to become really important with putting together a workout. For this guy, these differences, they're not that important, but it's still worth correcting, because you don't want to get to the point where every workout when you're strong and advanced is a big stress, and then you have to be a lot more precise with how you structure, especially with frequency, high frequency stuff. So understanding it now, even if it probably doesn't make as much of a difference for him right now. Zach Whitmore, 9086. Seriously thinking about running 70s powerlifter as an overweight late novice who feels a little lost, wondering where to take my programming next. Now, obviously I'm biased. I wrote the program, but I make these videos, and I've been making videos about programming in general for so long because I, like everybody else, I'm trying to get a handle on the entire zoo of different training programs. It's like you got this zoo, somebody opened up all the gates, all the lions are in with the hyenas, and they're in with the freaking flamingos, and it's just pandemonium, and we're trying to get everything onto their own little islands in their own little cages so we can make sense of the landscape of programming. And as I've compiled all these things, it's why I love talking about it, because I've invested so much time into trying to really make sense of all of it. As I get a handle on all these things, that's what I implement into my programs, and I make sure that they look enough alike what people have done before, that it's not just something I pulled out of my ass. In addition to that, I've been coaching for 20 years. I have a really, really big sample size of people that I've used these methods with, from regular ass people to competitors, to people that have gone to worlds. That, more than anything else, is like where my authority comes from, and as much as I have it. So one of the reasons I push programs like this is because I think if I'm putting a blanket program out for a lot of people, you need it to solve very general problems in the population. It's not specific to you. You have to kind of tweak that on your own to find that. But for a bunch of people, I know that this era, this generation, people are not training this way. So we know people often did and got very good results. We know now that you can get good results, but also it's different from what people are doing. So it's kind of a blind spot. When you address that blind spot, growth just happens really quickly. So I'm biased, but I still strongly recommend something like it. Even if I didn't recommend this, I'd recommend something that had the same basic machinations in it. The volume is really great for recomp. And this is something, I mean, I heard this from like Karwoski's crew. Marty Gallagher talked about this, that they would actually cut on the high volume phases. Now, I don't recommend that for the average person. Obviously, they're on a lot of gear. They're also some of the most talented lifters around. The average person, I don't recommend cutting on volume phases. You can, but it's hard to grow muscle. So that should take priority when you're on a muscle growing program. It's easy to lose fat. Ideally, that's kind of where you do it. But no matter what you're doing, again, a lot of calories burnt. It does help with that. And if you're not acclimated to it, growth comes pretty quick. So if you're in that spot, it might be the thing to kind of kick you up in intermediate territory. The beautiful thing, again, because training is always cyclical, it's never not cyclical. When you do a chunk of training with that crazy amount of volume, focus on high reps with a lot of compound movements, and you do get into that intermediate territory, now you are supremely justified in doing something that's specific, something that newbies like to start with, that's very low rep, very specialized, that you have no fucking business doing. You have business growing muscle, becoming comfortable with a lot of different movements, acclimating to volume, learning what it's like to strain, refining your technique, all of that. Once you cross that bridge, then you go into the specialized stuff and you're going to grow like gangbusters. M4s, I have a question. Do you have some general advice for guys over 50 with physical jobs who want to be as strong as humanly possible, but also have the energy to take care of family and have a little something left over for work? And I don't know if it's I'm getting older or the people that started following me when I started like 8 or 10 years ago, they've gotten older, but I'm getting a lot of questions about this that I'm going to have to address as well. And it's hard. Things don't recover as quick and you got to navigate that on the fly. So a couple key things here. One, he has a physical job. Two, he says he wants to be as strong as humanly possible. This is not, I just want to be in shape to be able to play with the grandkids. This is like, I like being strong, but I need energy and I have this demanding job. So I approached it this way. I said, I would tell you not to consider your age, even though age does tell you that you're not going to be able to get away with as much as you could before. That's all it tells you. It doesn't give you anything specific about your tolerances, what specific things you need to focus on. And everybody's in that bucket. Everybody should be trying to figure out what exactly is holding them back in their recovery when it comes from their training. Remember, all programs operate off of providing a specific enough and big enough stress to cause growth, but in the bounds of what you can actually recover from. So it's just balancing the stress with balancing the recovery. That's all it is. And you can dial those a bunch of different ways. It could be the frequency. It could be the specific exercise you just don't have a tolerance to, or the number of exercise, or how much effort, or how much time in between hard efforts. There's a lot of things. And you just got to put on your thinking cap, treat it like an exercise in problem solving. Now for energy, start before you even get to the program, because if the stuff in the rest of your life is effed up, it doesn't matter what you do in your program. So you don't need 9 hours of sleep, but you want to make sure you're not one of the guys who's riding off like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, or you have sleep apnea that's gone unchecked, your diet's like shit, you skip breakfast, you eat Twinkies and drink a tall Mountain Dew on the way to the office. Force yourself to go to bed as early as you can. People don't like to do that, especially the kids go down. I know that's like mine and Laura's time when Teddy goes down. 7 every night like clockwork. 8:30 gets here before we know it, but then it's like, God, we're tired. It's been a long day. We get in bed, we go down, and the rest of our day is better for it. Now, a big thing for general energy too is getting in rest through the rest of the day. Power naps are huge. They should teach this in school. Every time you do a power nap, you're not trying to fall back asleep. You're trying to just get to that state where you start to hallucinate, but you're still conscious, like right as you slip into dream territory, and then you want to wake up. That is where you will wake up refreshed, and it is equivalent to getting some amount of actual sleep. And you can clock multiple times a day. And whenever I'm really dragging, it just picks me right back up. You can supercharge it too. It takes a minute for caffeine to kick in. So if you sip some coffee, then do it and wake up 15 minutes later or so, you're gonna wake up with that caffeine kick and it works a lot better. Also, to make sure you don't fall asleep, I like to lay back in a chair, cross my arms, cross my feet, close my eyes, because when you do fall asleep in that position, you'll jerk. You'll do a hypnic jerk that'll kick you out of it. It's like Inception, you know, you get that kick that wakes you up. But then you're like, okay, it's time to get up now. You're going to feel a lot better. That brain fog will be gone. And you still get the restorative benefits of getting that extra recovery. It makes a difference. Now, assuming like nutrition is good enough and sleep is good enough, doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be good enough, then the rest is training variables. Now, the thing is, if you want to be strong as humanly possible, that implies you have to clock some more work, be a little more specific with your decisions. But volume is going to be part of that. So time in the gym, that's always going to be part of it, at least at certain points in your training. Now, one of the big things with energy too is understanding that you don't just jump into high volume phases. You have to acclimate. It takes time, like the repeated bout effect. That means if you do some volume work and you're sore as shit for like 5 days, as you do it more and more, that stops happening, right? Everybody's experienced that. What that means is that the more you do volume, the more acclimated you are to it. It doesn't put you into that recovery deficit. So acclimating to it is part of it. I cited the 52 set study that everybody lost their minds over. I don't know why that coincides with everything I believe about training. The 52 set study did something almost no studies do. They had them deliberately ramp up over time, which means repeated bout. They were conditioned. They didn't start with 52 sets. If you do that experiment, they overtrain. If you give them time to adapt, you have to be in good enough shape in order to adapt. And I actually mentioned that in this video. This is all under the last video about 70s bench pressers. I talked about Westside. Westside used GPP days. The reason you know what GPP is because they had an idea that the better shape you're in, the more volume you can handle and recover from. So let's not just lift. Let's also do things, train to be better in a way that makes our lifting better. So it's the same idea. So if you are struggling with energy and you're a bit older and you have a physical job, it just means being in shape is part of it. You have to be in shape to handle all of that stuff. Now, where I would take somebody into a more minimalist approach is if there really are severe problems caused by that approach. Like let's say your tolerance just won't allow you to do your job and get that volume of training in, then don't fight against it until you're broken and bruised. Look towards something that is more minimalist and is more forgiving on your body. If you're having a problem with joint overuse issues, then you can start tweaking the exercises to find something that's a little bit friendly. Don't be stubborn because you like barbell benching this way, so that's all I'm going to do. It's just a matter of titration to get to the bottom of it. Now, this is also a big thing, and I find this a lot with people that as they age, there's a lot of people in the general population that need to hear this too. Ignore most of what your body's telling you when you work out. We like to think listening to your body is good advice. Your body lies to you. Like it really does. The entire extreme, like Bulgarian squat every day, John Bros approach hinged on the idea that your body lied to you. And anybody who survived training like that, or if you've gone through a hell week or trained with a really aggressive crew, knows there are days where you feel like absolute dog shit, where you surprise yourself with a PR. There's also days where you have high hopes, you feel good, and the weight just doesn't move. So your body doesn't always give you very honest feedback. I think that gets worse as you get older. If older population just stopped working whenever they felt a twinge, you wouldn't get anything done. So once something is egregiously wrong, like don't train through a hamstring tear, or if it's become a problem over multiple sessions, if it's impacting your training, if you're having less and less energy as time goes on, then there's something to address there. But assume that you can handle a lot more than you think, and assume that adapting more volume is just something you're going to have to do. There are plenty of instances of people that have found a way to make that work. Mr. Stahlberg, I'd love your take on powerlifting program style of top set with back off sets, how to do it well. Now, I like this because it's a simple, short question, but it's complex. So I have to do the annoying coach, oh, it depends. I have a few programs like that. I have them in base strength. I've written about them, made videos about them. There's a lot of different ways to do the top set, back off set dynamic. It just means you have your heavy set for the day. That's where you're getting a taste of weight, doing something strength specific, maybe straining a little bit. And the rest is like token volume. It's like the backdrop of volume. We see this come about in a lot of different programs. You think of a Chico program, which is a bunch of submaximal sets. I mean, the heaviest work of a day is 80% for a double, 85% for 1 or 2 reps. Not difficult at all, but there's like 8 or 10 of them. So that background like noise volume, especially with skill acquisition, it works. It is not nothing. You got to get out of the like, I got to stimulate, bro. Like, no, acquiring touches works fantastically well, and it's easier to recover from. Now, the question is, how heavy are you going to go? How are you going to progress it week to week? What's your back off scheme look like? There's a lot of different ways to put this bad boy together, and don't think that one is going to be better or worse. They're not. There aren't bonus points for sitting and tweaking individual rep counts or finding more beautiful, elaborate progressions that make neat designs when you put them in a graph. No, find a basic one that you like. You want to have a timeline to progress it. Every week I'm going to add a certain amount of weight, or I'm going to move into a different percentage, or RPE is going to go up. And then anticipate that as stress builds up, eventually that wall's coming, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Be ready to deload, to reset, to switch the exercise. Doesn't matter what it is, just something to get you out of straining that particular movement that particular way. So since it's for powerlifting, we want a couple things. Strength, okay, specificity, but it's just got to taper down. It's just got to get to the point where you're eventually doing low reps into singles. That's really all you have to concern yourself with. So an easy wave off the top of my head, top 5, 1 in the tank. It doesn't matter how in shape or not in shape you're doing, you can go do that. You can go do 5 reps where you maybe could have done 6, maybe 7, okay? It doesn't even have to be the hardest workout of your life. Now you just need to drop weight. Since this probably isn't an advanced lifter and we're far away from doing singles, we don't have to do strength specific volume. We can do volume that is broad, base building, developmental. AMRAPs are effing great for that, and it's super easy to do it in this reverse pyramid style. I did it for years. Top 5, drop 10%, do as many as I can. Drop 10%, do as many as I can. Obviously taking some rest in between there. And then you have those numbers in your head. So every time you go back to an AMRAP, it's like, okay, I got a little bit more weight on. Let's see if I can break it. It gives you something to chase. There's elasticity in it. Again, I love AMRAPs because there is elasticity, more so than you're going to do 97% and it's got to be at this RP. It's like just AMRAP. Do as many as you can, get a stress. Now you can repeat that for 4 or 5 weeks to where it's getting heavier. I'm hitting new 5 rep PRs. I feel good. I'm feeling stronger, feeling better. The AMRAPs are going better. My capacity is better. Oh my God, jeans are getting tighter. Might have to go get some barbell apparel jeans. And then after you hit a deload, you come back, you can go into another phase that's a little more specific. So now we're doing top 3s. Same thing with the AMRAPs on the way down. And then as you get into a phase where you're doing doubles or singles, now is probably a time to get a bit more strength specific. Again, 4 or 5 weeks a block. We're looking at maybe 8 or 10 weeks combined. That's enough time to benefit from that type of work. So now maybe you're looking at sets across instead of AMRAPs. So that's a change from that type of higher rep work to lower specific work, from the strain of fatigue and metabolic waste buildup down to refining technique at heavier percentages. So you might do a top 3 or a top 2, and then you might do a few sets of 2. After that, 5% lighter, 10% lighter, and you're progressing up that way. Oh good, Freaky D's here on a bench video. I'm super excited. 99 problems and a bench press is a third of them. Can't relate. Freaky D, what are you, like 160 pounds now, super skinny, doing your box jumps and your CrossFit work, and he can bench press circles around me, even though I'm still a fat, strong man. So I'm just gonna go take my bench press wrist wraps and go hang myself with them. Oh my God, that is hail. How is it hailing right now? This is bananas. Hopefully this doesn't wreck my audio. I'm not gonna wait, I'm just gonna power through. I made a statement in this video about people using weight classes or height classes in disguise as a cope. And then I'm like, well, Ed Cohn was like, what, 5'5", and he was a 220. He was like, oh, I'm 5'5". I gotta be 160 to compete. No, guys try to gain weight. Generic nickname 1, I like that handle. Said, I didn't take this statement seriously until I went to my first powerlifting meet. At 6 feet, I was towering over other under 83 kilo competitors. It shouldn't be used by short people to cope. I take it as gain weight until you're the shortest in your weight class. That's a great way to put it. That's absolutely beautiful if you want to be as competitive as possible. One of the reasons I also say it to cope is because a lot of people, even though they like competing, their life is not oriented towards competing as much as possible. It's fine if you don't want to gain weight. You don't have to be a mass monster. You don't have to say, hey, I want to gain 50 pounds of raw meat to carry around like a pack horse the rest of my life. But just know that about yourself. Training still comes with a muscle building effect that you should embrace. It's not easy to gain that weight. So if you don't want to do it, it's not like you're accidentally going to find yourself there. But understand that it is hard to gain 5, 10, 15 pounds to get yourself to a reasonable build where you can demonstrate strength for your frame. So the goal is not to have the highest dot score in the world. And even if it was your goal, you're still not going to have the highest dot score in the world. So find what's important for you and train that. And make sure you're not inventing rules just because, oh, I'm bad at this thing, so let me just change my principles to make it to where that's the thing I didn't want to do anyways, because that's just really common in this world. Open Bar Garage, I have a question. Why is it strongman way more popular than powerlifting? Is it more popular? I have a feeling it isn't. Maybe more known, but I believe it has way less participants. I think it's a better, more interesting sport in the natural progression after powerlifting, but I'm glad powerlifting exists. It depends how you talk about popularity. Powerlifting is more accessible. So it's always going to be the bottom up sport. It is driven by the people that do powerlifting for fun. If we get to a generation where people just aren't motivated by it anymore, you're going to see a steep decline in powerlifting. Strongman, on the other hand, is becoming more top driven, like you want a professional sport. You have the main attraction, that's what drives views and advertising money, and that's what people watch. And it's attracting people that don't necessarily compete in strongman who are interested. And it also helps that the biggest guys put so much time and effort into media. You have the strongest man in the world on the History Channel, which did a lot. All the collaborations they do, it doesn't hurt that like 3 of the best ever do it. And actually beyond that, I mean, Hooper and Stoltman and everybody else, we have Thor, Shaw, Eddie Hall are all like making their nut on YouTube. So it just has such a broader reach. And what that does, it doesn't just make those names recognizable, it creates a competitive narrative. There's now a story, a history. And I get into this discussion with like women's basketball. I'm always telling people like, it's not the actual athleticism. People watch celebrity boxing matches for a reason. Their athleticism fucking sucks. A competitive narrative is what is required to make sport interesting, even if they're terrible at what they do. I mean, God, people talk about, oh, women's sports, women can't dunk. People watch the Little League World Series, for God's sakes. Like, I think regular baseball is boring, but now I'm watching like 12-year-olds, like several steps down the chain in terms of physicality. But when you're connected to the people there, when you hear the human interest story of the players, when you know the town they're from, when there's some competitive background, it becomes a different thing. Strongman has that in absolute spades, and that is the main reason. I mean, I go off on sumo being dumb, and that's part of it. But mainly the reason that nobody cares when Browner or Wiersbicki or Grigsby or Engelbrecht sumo deadlifts 500 kilograms, it's because there is zero competitive narrative out in the zeitgeist, with the exception of very few hyper-focused fans. But it just doesn't exist on the same playing field. Some of it is how they leverage social media. Some of it is the actual dynamic of the sport. Strongman is a more direct competitive sport where it has to be you versus the other guy. Where powerlifting, people can compete across different meets over time. They don't all have to be there. There's not the same shit talking. Combat sports, head-on sports are always going to have that. So anyways, strongman I think is more popular in a general sense than powerlifting is, absolutely. I think a lot more people know who the world's strongest men are than who know who the top total holders or even like bench press record holders are. If you ask somebody to name, how many people of the top 10 benches of all time, even though benching is popular, a lot of people can't do it. And then when you get to the weight classes, certainly people are checked out. I compete in strongman. That's my life. I don't care about the weight class. I don't care about the weight class I compete in. So that's just a testament to the difference between following it because you do it, following it because it's interesting and there's a main attraction. That's my rant on that. Thank you for watching. How are babies made? I did not give the right answer there. SJR4815, Brahm, life advice, please. I dedicated 10 years of my life to pursuing heaps of continuing education in strength and conditioning, physical therapy, kinesiology, sports performance, etc., all while running my own coaching business, only to wind up burnt out, depressed, disillusioned, and completely disinterested in coaching anymore. Then we got medical bills, time off, slashed his savings. Now he's near broke and he's trying to transition into a different career with no applicable degree or experience. A vial of tests for your thoughts. What would you do? I'm off the sauce, brother. So how about you just buy me a panini? Now the important beats here is what is causing the disillusionment, because it takes time, effort, investment. I mean, spend all this time on all this education to build yourself as an authority. That is a hard thing to do, and that's valuable. It's so valuable to do that. So to walk away from it because you're feeling disillusioned, you got to make sure it's the right reason. And then you got to make sure that the risk is worth it. Is the juice worth the squeeze? So I lay out those two things off the top of my head. Risk is an entirely individual calculation. It's just like investing. If you're younger, you can tolerate risk. You can make bigger jumps. The upside's bigger, but you might get cleaned out, but you have more time. So if you're 70, obviously you're not taking risky stock investment advice. If you're older, especially if you have a family, if you're responsible for others, scrapping all of that you have in your back pocket, it's like putting your best workhorse out to pasture just because you're tired of looking at him. It's probably not wise. Now, before you get to risk, you got to figure out why you're feeling that way to begin with. It's possible that you're a person that realized way too late this doesn't vibe with you. Maybe you don't like working for yourself. It's difficult. Maybe coaching is just dumb. Maybe you've just lost the passion and that's it. It's possible that you're better off finding something else. But what's likely to be true? It is exponentially more common for people to go to this headspace when regular ass stress builds up. It's very much like grass is always greener. I'm tired of this, so let me justify throwing this away and go and do this other thing because it must be better over there. Now this is where I can relate heavily because I worked a bunch of Jesus H Christ. For myself, I worked a lot of jobs where I had to work for other people. I always went to jobs that paid the same for less time rather than jobs that just paid more because time was important to me, especially I was young. Probably a little too important to me. But I would count it as a raise when I made the same money, but now I'm working 25 hours a week instead of 40. So that eventually led me from like being a delivery driver, working in retail, working at grocery stores, to now I'm like working in restaurants, I'm bartending. Way better. You can work part-time. I realized from the get-go that working for other people wasn't for me, set schedules. I didn't like at the time, and I wanted to work for myself. There's a long line of that going on in my family. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, ran an antique car business his entire life. Model T's, Model A's were everywhere in my upbringing, and he certainly wouldn't take any orders from anybody. My brother was kind of self-made to that capacity. He was an excellent salesperson, and he got to ride his own ticket wherever he went. My dad, he was a professional, but he knew he could go anywhere. He was a psychiatrist, and he would routinely tell bosses to go F themselves. Anyways, that thread ran deep, so I'm like, let me get into something I like. I got to work for myself. Thank God it paid off. But for the last probably 15 years, I've been oriented this way, saying, I got to work for myself. I got to get into this. I got to figure out the internet or coaching or whatever it is. Now, as privileged as I am to be where I am, as happy as I am, it's afforded us so much. The ease of making money and how much it feels to coincide with my lifestyle that I want, those are all very real things. But it's also countered by like the difficulty of managing my own schedule. Very difficult for me. This is what showed me that I do in fact have ADHD or something that we can label ADHD. I have a fucking hard time focusing, and when you manage your income, this is what put me face to face with my attention issues. I had a very hard time managing my time, my schedule, not getting lost in menial tasks. Very, very inefficient. I still struggle with it to a degree. It's much better now though. I have to constantly find new and relevant content to make every week for the rest of my life, which is kind of crushing when you think about it. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I'd be lying if I didn't say every now and then I think back on those shit jobs that I work and feel like, oh, it's kind of nice to be able to have your job laid out for you. You could shut your brain off and do it, and then when you leave, it stays there and I can just go exist, because that is not my life now, and that's led to burnout in the past. So the point of all of that story is to tell you that whatever new career you're going to look at, people in that career get burnt out too. So you want to make damn sure that this burnout is not from other things where maybe if your time management sucks, or maybe there is some other emotional dysfunction or maladaptive stuff going on. If you don't get to the root of that, you're just going to kick the can forward. So you have to have a deep thought with yourself. What is the risk involved? Do I have this upside if I go over to this job? Is it going to be good for me because it's new? Is it going to be good for me because I'm better suited for doing that type of work? Or am I going to be left with the same problem where I'm going to be disillusioned, depressed, and kind of a rut, and I just got to figure out how to problem solve there. So no matter what you do, I still recommend you take those issues you're dealing with and not treat them like they're a direct byproduct of this external thing. Assume to some degree. Start with like 10%. Just try it on, and then maybe increase if it starts taking you to good conclusions. Try on the idea that you have some say in it, and there are actually some things you can do to help with that, and that, hey, at the end of the world, or if I lived in some horrible society, I would just have to make do with what I have. Do I have the ability ability to do that. And you'll find that as you start to succeed and find better systems, you get wins, and the disillusionment, it tends to dissipate. But you know, it's a hard valley to cross. I'm not going to tell you that it's worth your time and effort to do it. You're the only one that can do that. I've stopped bench variations for comp benching 3 times a week, doing a heavy, light, medium split. For those of you that don't know, it's like something like the Texas method. Andy Baker writes a lot on this. It's like you have a 3-day split with the same lift, and your DUP is using like different rep ranges, like 12s and then 6s and then 3s on different days. Heavy, light, medium is more just working a similar rep range, but effort changes. So heavy day might be a heaviest 5 I can do. Medium day might be a few sets of 5, a little bit lighter. A light day might be way lighter for a few sets of 5, more for recovery than anything. So you get a lot of skill acquisition. It's less about brute stimulus each workout. His front delts are fatigued. Does this mean carry on or adjust, go back? Fatigue isn't necessarily a bad thing, and that's a hard thing to try to gauge. After a lot of years, you'll get a sense of what fatigue you can live through and what fatigue is going to lead to a bigger problem. Really good training is going to be fatiguing as all hell until you have some sort of deload, and that's where the strength is going to be expressed. You want to make sure you avoid the problem of the fatigue impeding your workouts or causing some type of like chronic overuse problem where it hurts to do basic shit. You don't want to be living and dying by 3 bench days a week if it suddenly hurts to get like the peanut butter out of the shelf. The general thought is that like rotating different movements is a bit easier because you're not hitting the exact structures the exact same way, so less likely to create overuse issues. It makes great sense. Wenning talked about that a lot. I tend to agree with him. I don't know if it actually does work that way or to the degree, or if it's still mainly really individual. Now, since that is all of a crapshoot, and it is, when you start really trying to hyperfixate on subtle movement differences, when you start getting issues, like, well, maybe this little tweak is going to help. It really is just trial and error. I like to save the exercise tinkering for worst case scenarios. I talked about my torn labrum. I have to get some benching in. I could suck it up, but it hurts a lot and it hurts for multiple days and it doesn't feel like it's helping anything. I found that a reverse grip bench is very doable. It's weird. I don't know how much it's going to carry over to my main bench. It's better than not benching at all. Shoulder feels pretty good when I do it. So that's an extreme case. But for like regular, like, oh, I'm a bit tired, this muscle's a little more sore, I would really just focus on tinkering on program variables like frequency, how heavy are you going, how much effort are you putting in, what's your time in between really heavy effort. Heavy, light, medium, that's probably not really a concern, but also secondary exercises that add stress. You know, how many shoulder exercises are you doing? If you're benching 3 times a week, but also trying to do raises and dips and overhead pressing, that might be overkill, and you can remove some of those to specialize on one thing. Heavy, light, medium is kind of going to be that. You're not going to be able to do that and check all of your boxes. Now, aggressive warm-ups also go a long way. I've talked about this before. I think I talked about it earlier in the same video. Don't get on the bench press until you've done some flies for your pecs, some rear delt work, some rotation, some rows. Get a little pump in your arms. You'll be a little bit more fatigued, but as time goes on, you adapt to it. You're not going to be that much more fatigued, but the blood flow makes everything feel better. It also fills out those areas to make you more stable. That can help combat those issues. That's a lot of talking. My voice is hoarse. I missed all the rain and hail, which I'm sad. I wanted to go out and lay in it, but I couldn't because I was busy talking to you guys. So hope you appreciate my time and attention. Let me know what you think of these. If you have anything you want me to address specifically, I am trying to make an effort. Like, I've decided I can't stay away from the comment section. It's a compulsion. So let me try to funnel that for good. And if I can engage in a more positive way, maybe I'm not going to spend so much time writing essays about how people are idiots because they were mean in my comment section. So leave whatever questions you want and I will answer in depth. Whole variety of things, training, life stuff, whatever you think that I might have a reasonable opinion on, and leave it below. Let me know if you like these videos. Maybe I'll do more of these. Maybe I'll stick to drawing. Maybe I'll go back to the whiteboard. Maybe I'll switch careers. Maybe I'll go back to working at Macaroni Grill or Yard House. You know, it was pretty sweet working the graveyard shift at IHOP. You know, maybe I need a change. We'll see. And don't forget, free hoodie, $99 purchase at Barbell Apparel, and it stacks. So get yourself like 10 free hoodies, barbellapparel.com/Bromley. It's ending soon, so go right now. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.